Kuseni, you were talking about world-class education. We can't even get that right, when it comes to delivering textbooks in South Africa. So we're starting to see a lot of other issues which are very real for people on the ground. How do you foresee this playing out going forward? Do you think that we can actually find solutions and say, well, let's fix education, as opposed to thinking about implementing a new health scheme in HI?
The irony, Eleni, is that we have got tried and tested models that work in this country, that provide world-class education. Some clever parents in England prefer to bring their kids to St. John's or Michaelhouse than Eton or Rugby or any of the public schools in that country. If they could, as Koki was saying, get government and business to share expertise, share capabilities, and really put the country above all else, we can be able to really unlock that. And we need to elevate education to be the burning national strategic priority. The fact that we have the Limpopo book saga up to now, 7 months into the school year, some kids have not received books and there are no consequences. No minister has fallen or his sword, is something that should be a shame to all of us. I think we have what it takes. The resources are there. Per capita, we spend quite a decent amount of our national budget on education, actually better than most countries. But sadly, we've got nothing to show for it.
And it's interesting. By the way, I mean, it's obvious we've got what it takes. South African Breweries delivers beer to every township in the country every week. Our government can't deliver school books to a province once a year.
Do you think SAB Miller should be taking that contract? We've got certain world-class Rolls-Royce type thinking, world-class thinking in South Africa, but when it comes to the most simple things, we cannot get it right. And perhaps this is endemic in the rest of the continents as well.
Can I get rid of my biggest gripe?
Go for it.
Okay, sorry to bore you with this, but in our industry, we're forced to write exams now. I had to write 3 exams to prove that I can do my job. But if you look at politicians, and that's not only South Africa, it's globally, politicians have to do no exams. Politicians don't need even education, yet they make decisions about the future of millions of people. And I think that's something that's wrong as well. Not only here. Go and ask the Greeks and go and ask the Spaniards about their politicians who also messed up the country worse than our government has ever done. So you need politicians to also be trained but okay, we'll never get there, but that's my dream.
I'd like to talk about the fact that there needs to be some kind of incentive for the countries and the people that are buying specific products, Unilever being an example. Do you think that they should be embarking on social responsibilities? Do you think that we should be seeing more of this? How much have you seen on the African continent?
Kenya's supposed to be at $400, $500 per head. Rubbish. You go to Kenya, I mean, most people have got an access to a car. They own their own house. Even the kids have got mobile phones. There's a hell of a lot of BMWs on the streets. And that is a country that very deliberately allows itself to be defined by the aid paradigm, because if you go to the donor community and say we're very, very poor and we need all the assistance, it's a maker. The education budget and the health budget is entirely funded by foreigners. But that's not going to work if actually everyone's worth $1,000 a year. So, okay, the consumer market is much bigger than we think it is. Should those companies be involving themselves in some sort of social investment? Absolutely, because it makes sense for their own bottom line. I mean, as we were talking about earlier, I did a lot of work on malaria. That was involving giant foreign multinationals who worked out that if they protected their workforce from malaria, they could cut their costs by 20%, because 20% of their workers weren't off sick the whole time. They could actually sack a whole bunch of people, and they could pay their expats less because their expats weren't dying on the job. This was entirely about self-interested bottom line. And although it sounds mean, that's the way to make it sustainable. If you go to an ExxonMobil shareholders meeting, there are shareholders are clamoring for more social investment because it makes them more money. And that is now, fixing malaria is a core business proposition, not something you do on Sunday because you're a nice person. This is about fixing a business obstacle.
We were involved with malaria in Angola, in Ghana, and elsewhere. We did it also out of the goodness of our hearts, because we believe what is good for this community is good for us. But you're right about the business case. I think any CSI initiative that is not premised on a compelling business case is not sustainable. And the best thing to make it sustainable and effective is to combine the two.
Let's speak to the investor. I mean, would you be investing in a company that is far more cognizant of socio-economic issues, as opposed to focusing on companies that don't really have that flair?
Yeah. In the end, investors invest in a company and give them capital if they are generating a good return for them on that capital. But if they do it in such a way that sociologically is makes the country better and helps at the same time, then of course you want to do that. So, but if it's unprofitable and the company can't generate profit, then I'm not going to give them capital. So you must make a profit while doing it.
Former Anglo-American man, tell us.
Yeah, no, I mean, all I want to say is that this country is blessed in terms of pockets of excellence with the most amazing NGOs, and actually some of the best bang for buck can be through channeling money through existing NGOs. And one of the real tragedies is that the hard times economic scenario has meant a significant cutback in donations to some NGOs where the bang for the buck is just so much more than the really big CETA organizations or whatever it is, where, you know, jobs are created at R1 million a job. You know, you've got NGOs involved in enterprise development who have managed to get it down to 20,000 rand a job. And so I really do believe we've got to keep the NGOs here functioning, and equally, and I'm sorry I'm sounding like a hedgehog rather than a fox, I do believe that enterprise development should be one of the core parts of CSI, and that every company should look at changing its supply chain like we've done in Anglo, where we have the Zimeli project, to have as many small companies providing services as you can. I mean, there's over 1,000 small businesses supplying Anglo mines, and they're doing it well. It's no longer a sort of social responsibility project. It's actually a sensible commercial proposition. And I'd love to see big business really take on board the idea of, you know, part of its supply chain being used to develop small business.